What if a single narrow waterway could shake the entire global economy? Imagine waking up tomorrow to headlines saying, "The Strait of Hormuz is closed. Oil tankers stop moving. Energy markets panic. Stock markets crash within hours." This is not just a theoretical scenario. In 2026, tensions in the Persian Gulf have reached a dangerous new level. The Strait of Hormuz, one of the most strategic waterways on Earth, has once again become the center of a geopolitical storm. Nearly 20% of the world's oil supply flows through this narrow passage every single day. But now warships, surveillance drones, and missile systems are gathering around it. Iran has warned that if military pressure continues to rise, it may block the Strait of Hormuz entirely. And if that happens, the consequences could ripple across the entire planet. Energy prices could skyrocket, global trade could slow dramatically, and major military powers could find themselves on the edge of direct confrontation. So the question is simple, but terrifying. Is the Strait of Hormuz about to trigger the next global crisis? To understand why this region matters so much, we need to look at geography. The Strait of Hormuz connects the Persian Gulf to the Gulf of Oman and the Arabian Sea. At its narrowest point, it is only about 33 kilometers wide. Yet despite its small size, it is one of the most important energy corridors in the world. Major oil exporters like Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, Iraq, and Qatar rely heavily on this route to send their oil and gas to global markets. And sitting directly along the northern coastline of this choke point is Iran. For decades, Iran has viewed control of this area as a powerful strategic leverage. Tensions between Iran, Israel, and the United States have been escalating for years. There have been covert operations, cyber attacks, and proxy conflicts across the Middle East. But in 2026, the situation intensified. Reports emerged that Israeli forces carried out targeted strikes against Iranian military infrastructure. In response, Iran began increasing its military readiness in the Persian Gulf. Missile systems were activated. Naval patrols increased. Military exercises expanded near the strait. The United States reacted quickly. American aircraft carrier strike groups began moving closer to the region, reinforcing their presence. Suddenly, one of the world's busiest shipping lanes became a tense military standoff. And in such a crowded and heavily armed environment, even a small miscalculation could trigger a massive crisis. If conflict were to erupt in the Strait of Hormuz, it would not look like a traditional naval war. Instead, it would likely become a classic example of asymmetric warfare. Iran knows it cannot defeat the United States Navy in a direct large-scale battle. But it does not need to. Its goal would be much simpler. Disrupt the strait long enough to create global shockwaves. One of Iran's most effective tools is naval mines. Iran reportedly possesses thousands of sea mines that can be deployed quickly across shipping lanes. Even a small number of mines could force tanker traffic to halt while naval forces attempt to clear them. And that process could take days or even weeks. Another major tactic involves fast attack boats. The naval branch of Iran's Revolutionary Guard operates dozens of small, high-speed vessels. These boats are designed for swarm tactics. Instead of attacking individually, large groups of boats can surround and overwhelm larger ships, including tankers or even military vessels. Then there are anti-ship missile systems positioned along Iran's coastline. Missiles such as the Noor and Khaliji Fars are specifically designed to target naval vessels. These systems allow Iran to threaten ships passing through the strait from land-based launch platforms. Drone technology is another key component. Over the past decade, Iran has invested heavily in unmanned aerial vehicles. These include surveillance drones used to track ship movements and kamikaze drones capable of striking targets directly. But on the other side of the equation stands the enormous power of the United States Navy. American carrier groups bring advanced radar systems, long-range cruise missiles, and fifth-generation aircraft like the F-35 stealth fighter. Warships equipped with Aegis missile defense systems can intercept incoming threats while coordinating attacks against enemy launch sites. In the event of conflict, U.S. forces would likely attempt to neutralize Iranian missile batteries, radar systems, and naval bases very quickly. This means any battle around the Strait of Hormuz would likely be fast, technological, and extremely intense. But the true impact of a Strait of Hormuz crisis would not be limited to the battlefield. Its shockwaves would be felt across the entire global economy. The first and most immediate effect would be on oil prices. Energy markets are extremely sensitive to supply disruptions. If tanker traffic through the strait slowed or stopped, oil prices could rapidly surge beyond $150 or even $200 per barrel. This would affect far more than just fuel costs. Transportation expenses would rise. Manufacturing costs would increase. Food prices could climb dramatically. Global inflation could accelerate almost overnight. Asia would likely face the biggest impact. Major economies such as China, Japan, and India depend heavily on Middle Eastern oil shipments. Any prolonged disruption could create serious energy shortages across these regions. Europe would also feel the economic pressure through higher energy prices and disrupted trade networks. And then there is the geopolitical dimension. Russia, already a major energy exporter, could benefit economically if global oil prices surge. Higher prices would make Russian oil exports even more valuable. China, meanwhile, would likely push hard for diplomatic solutions. Beijing has enormous energy demands and cannot afford a long-term disruption to Gulf oil supplies. This means China could act as a mediator, using economic and political influence to calm the situation. In other words, a crisis in the Strait of Hormuz would quickly evolve into a global strategic issue, involving not just regional powers but the world's largest economies. So what could happen next? Several possible scenarios are being discussed by analysts. The first scenario is limited escalation. Iran may continue threatening to disrupt the strait without fully closing it. This allows Tehran to apply strategic pressure without triggering a full military response. The second possibility is indirect confrontation. Instead of open warfare, tensions could manifest through cyber attacks, covert sabotage, and mysterious incidents involving shipping vessels. We have already seen similar events in the past, where tankers were damaged under unclear circumstances. The third and most dangerous scenario is an accidental military clash. In such a heavily militarized region, a single miscalculation could quickly spiral out of control. A missile launch, a drone strike, or a naval encounter gone wrong. Any of these events could trigger a chain reaction that escalates rapidly. Most experts agree on one thing. No major power actually wants a full-scale war in the Strait of Hormuz, because the economic consequences would be catastrophic for everyone involved. The Strait of Hormuz may look like a small line on the map, but in reality it is one of the most critical arteries of the global economy. And in 2026, it has become a tense geopolitical pressure point. A narrow waterway carrying trillions of dollars in energy trade, and surrounded by some of the most powerful militaries on Earth. The real question now is this: will Iran actually attempt to block the Strait of Hormuz? Or is the threat simply a strategic warning to its rivals? What do you think could happen next? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you want more deep analysis on global conflicts, military strategy, and geopolitics, make sure to subscribe to the channel for future updates. Because sometimes, the most important battles in the world are fought not on land, but at critical choke points like this one.